India is free. What a miracle. India is free. What a miracle. That independence can be without war. History will tell you it has never happened before. India is free. What a miracle.
Thus wrote Mr. Chia Lun Lo, Chinese ambassador to India, while dedicating his poem to the cause of Indian freedom in August 1947. It was the evening of 14th August 1947.
At sunset, as the clock struck 7, thousands of Union Jacks were lowered forever to the bugler's melancholy call, announcing the sunset of the British Empire in her most prized and largest colony.
As the Union Jack passed into oblivion at sunset, a little fire was lit at the garden of Dr. Rajendra Prasad's New Delhi residence.
It was a sacred fire, consecrated and purified by the priest, who sat beside, chanting mantras.
Vasavo devata, rudra devata, ditya devata, maruto devata, vishve deva devata.
As he repeated the chant, the learned men and women, who would shortly become ministers of independent India, filed past the fire.
Then they stepped over to a woman who applied Mangal Tilak onto their foreheads. Thus, they were prepared for the heavy burden awaiting them as they set out to the flag-draped Constituent Assembly Hall. All India Radio, the only electronic media of the would-be independent India, relayed the power transfer ceremony live for the first time.
Millions all over the country tuned their radio sets while the world slept.
This is All India Radio Delhi, radiating on all transmitters. We are now taking you over to the Durbar Hall for a running commentary connected with the assumption of power taking place there.
Members are all seated in their various allotted seats. The galleries are packed with visitors.
In the front row sat a slight, slim man, dressed in a long coat buttoned up to the neck. A fresh rosebud was twisted into the buttonhole of his vest. He was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru.
Outside the hall, a rippling wave of thunder clattered across the midnight sky. The monsoon drenched more than 50,000 Indians, jamming the area around the hall.
Right in front of the 2 blocks of Secretariat, there's a larger crowd which is patiently waiting to have a glimpse of their dear leaders.
The solemnity of the approaching moment at the Constituent Assembly heralded with Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram was Sujalam, Sufalam, Malayaj Sheetalam, Subrajyotsna. ये सब जब हम याद करते हैं तब हम तो आज भी रोमांचित हो जाते हैं.
The chanting of Vande Mataram had a mesmerizing, thrilling and chilling effect on the freedom fighters, says Usha Mehta, who established a radio station secretly during the freedom struggle.
The President of the Constituent Assembly, the beloved Rajan Babu of the masses, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, addressed the august house. He began his address in the name of Almighty God.
In this solemn hour of our history, when after many years of struggle, we are taking over the governance of this country, let us offer our humble thanks to the almighty power that shapes the destinies of men and nations.
There was a prolonged applause in his tribute to the great soul, the Mahatma. The man chosen to assume leadership of modern India, the prophet of New India, rose to speak.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
His voice was strong, confident, and full of idealism and vision. One after another, eloquent phrases fell from his lips. It was one of the best speeches Nehru ever made. The occasion, man and matter, and the manner combined to give his utterance dignity and emotional appeal which few Indians could resist.
And to the still larger cause of humanity.
In his homage to the Messiah of non-violence and the greatest man of this century, Nehru said,
"The ambition of the greatest man of our generation has been to wipe every tear from every eye. That may be beyond us, but so long as there are tears and suffering, so long our work will not be over."
As Nehru and a galaxy of leaders prepared themselves to shoulder free India, the last Viceroy of British India was at Viceroy's house.
He glanced at the ticking clock and said to himself,
"For a little while, I am the most powerful on earth. I am sitting here, living out the last minutes of this incredible office in which men had power to perform miracles. I must perform a miracle."
Suddenly, he sat upright, called his aides, and said,
"I have decided to elevate the Begum of Palampur to the dignity of Highness."
The order was placed at his desk at 11:58 p.m.
Almost at the same time, the British Emperor elevated Viscount Mountbatten to earldom.
As Mountbatten performed his final official act as Viceroy, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan was concluding his speech in support of the motion moved by Nehru.
With very great pleasure, I support this resolution, which asks us, as the representatives of the people of India, to dedicate ourselves in all humility.
Dr. Radhakrishnan was at his usual best in eloquence, wisdom, philosophy, and thought.
The note of humility means the unimportance of the individual and the supreme importance of the unfolding purpose which we are called upon to serve. So in that feeling of humility, let us take this pledge as soon as the clock strikes 12.
As seconds left to witness the end of an era, the President of the Assembly put the resolution to vote.
Members will please express their assent by saying aye. Aye. I take it there is no one against it. The resolution is carried.
In the hall, the hands of the clock over the speaker's stand crept up to the Roman numeral 12. Heads bowed, the representatives sat in a meditative silence, waiting for the chimes of midnight.
The 12 chimes marked the end of an era and the beginning of another one. It was the greatest hour of Delhi. Delhi became the seat of Lok Raj for the first time. The government of the people, by the people, for the people.
With bowed heads and moist eyes, the ushers of Lok Raj took a pledge of humble dedication to the service of India.
Willing contribution to the promotion of world peace and the welfare of mankind.
It was sunrise at midnight for India, says Chaudhry Ranbir Singh, who was a witness to the solemn transfer of power ceremony as a member of the Constituent Assembly.
We were very happy. We were fighting against an empire where sun never set. So we were happy that at least that era has come to an end. And today we are also very happy that sun does not rise in British Empire. Of course, Britain country sun is there, but not the British Empire.
So most freedom fighters did not believe that they would see India independent in their own lifetime. Certainly, we did not believe
For
so
most of the
when we
freedom
were
fighters,
introduced
it was a dream come true.
that when
They could not believe
India would
that
become
they were
free,
in a free
we
India,
would be dead,
says well-known journalist and freedom
what we
fighter
would,
Sitanshu
get
Das.
out of that independence would be probably a tomb collectively raised in the memory of unknown freedom fighters. But as luck would have it, we saw the dawn of independence sooner than we thought we would get.
But for the INA veterans, according to them, it was a night of mixed feelings, of happiness, of sadness, of pain, of failure to prevent partition of this land and the pangs of separation.
Colonel G.S. Dhillon, one of the great heroes of the Red Fort trial of INA soldiers.
Our hearts were heavy. We wanted undivided India. You see, we took it as a personal failure when India was divided. On that night, my parents and others who were on the west of the newly created border, I was cut off, and I had no means to find out whether they are dead or alive. It was eventually after some weeks that after search I found them in a refugee camp without any wherewithal. My father, suffering from arthritis, was riding a mare. My mother, at the age of 70, with blisters on her feet. So that was the condition.
Immediately after the pledge, the members took to their seats, this time as people's representatives of free India. It was a dream come true after a hard-fought struggle.
Dr. Rajendra Prasad kept standing to present his proposals to the representation of the Lok Raj.
I propose that it should be intimated to the Viceroy that the Constituent Assembly of India has assumed power for the governance of India. And the Constituent Assembly of India has endorsed the recommendation that Lord Mountbatten be Governor General of India from the 15th August 1947.
Women of India, who played a pivotal role in the freedom movement, had the rare privilege to present the national tricolour to the nation through the hands of Mrs. Hansa Mehta.
This first flag that will fly over this august house should be a gift from the women of India.
Sare Jahan Se Acha. The thought-provoking, captivating, eulogizing lyric on our beloved motherland echoed in the hall in the voices of Sucheta Kriplani.
Beyond Delhi's Constituent Assembly Hall, in the vastness of the nation, the momentous changes portended by the blowing of conches, found their echo in jubilant cheers and joyful celebration. Nowhere was Independence Night celebrated with more fervour and enthusiasm than in Bombay.
It was all the festivals of the land of festivals rolled into one, the Festival of Freedom.
The whole of Bombay city on the 14th...
Sitanshu Das, an eyewitness of Bombay, says the Bombay celebration was beyond description.
Describe that scene. I don't think any home that day, anybody stayed indoors unless he was very sick or something. Whole city was illuminated. Everybody was on the road. Whether you knew anybody or not, you just said Jai Hind to him or embraced. It was amazing situation, amazing scene. I don't think anything like of this I had ever seen or I would see in my life.
Oh, lovely dawn of freedom that breaks in gold and purple over an ancient capital, proclaimed India's poet laureate in benediction over the crowd celebrating in Delhi.
I was in Karol Bagh. People danced in joy, holding the tricolour. They distributed sweets, greeted each other in joy. I too danced with the crowd, says Inderjeet Singh Bhatia.
When the clock had chimed at that magic midnight, while the whole of India celebrated, the apostle of non-violence, who stirred the subcontinent without raising his voice and humbled Britain by refusing nourishment, that gentle prophet of the world's most extraordinary liberation movement was fast asleep.
As India celebrated, the great Viceroy's house, rechristened as Government House, was undergoing a revolution.
A delegation of Indian leaders sent by the Constituent Assembly arrived. Dr. Rajendra Prasad formally invited the ex-Viceroy to become India's first Governor-General.
Mountbatten accepted Prasad's invitation, pledging to serve India as if he himself was an Indian, to preserve and protect the newly found freedom.
Today, our free India is young. And like the young everywhere, she has a dream of a strong, powerful, vibrant, self-reliant and independent India. Our achievements are astounding, yet we have a long way to go in our quest for true freedom.
The true freedom, which India's poet laureate Rabindranath Tagore spelt out in his own words, where the mind is without fear,
where the head is held high,
where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls,
where words come out from the depth of truth,
where the tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection,
where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit,
where the mind is led forward into ever-widening thought and action.
Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.
Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.
Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.